Welcome back into the lunch break. Age. It has been one of the main focuses of my pushback to the Suns doing what they are doing. We outlined it in a social media clip yesterday. Every year beyond this year, it gets harder and harder for the Suns to win a championship because these guys get older and older. Jimmy Butler gets older. Kevin Durant gets older. Devin Booker gets older. Just the core ages. And at some point, you just don't have guys in their prime or still with a championship level left in the tank. Well, story in Yahoo Sports, Vincent Goodwill, senior reporter over there, got some quotes from Kevin Durant about his future. And Kevin Durant said that he's not a regular 36-year-old. Quote, I conditioned my mind, my body to be a pro, so what else am I going to do? Burn out? How many people playing at this level at my age? So you can't compare me to anyone who's burnt out. It could happen, but does it look like it right now? End quote. And so you appreciate Kevin Durant not shying away from his age, not shying away from father time, not shying away from that question. But I think he's missing the point. Because maybe I did a poor job of not emphasizing why I feel the way that I feel about the age thing in past conversations. But I'll outline it here today. I'm not worried that Kevin Durant is going to all of a sudden fall off the face of the earth and no longer be the superstar Kevin Durant. I mean, Kevin Durant, over the course of his career, is constantly reinventing his game. He is not the same guy that came into the league. He is just a prolific scorer and gets to his spot and hits shots and is constantly reinventing himself. He's a student of the game. He's always trying to get better. I'm not worried about that. But here is what happens when you age as a player. Here's what happens when you get older. You know how Kevin Durant on a pretty regular basis is scoring 25 to 30 and on a pretty regular basis is going into the 30s and he is constantly leading the way for this team? Remember, we threw a celebration a couple of weeks ago because somebody other than Kevin Durant led the team in scoring, right? As Kevin Durant gets older, as Jimmy Butler gets older, what goes isn't your ability. What goes isn't your talent. What goes is your consistency. What goes is your ability to do it every single night out. And so you'll still be able to, talent-wise, ability-wise, drop 30. I don't, for a second, question Kevin Durant's ability to do that into his 40s if he wanted to. But what's going to go is he doing it every night? Is he doing it every other night? Is he doing it every 3 games, every 5 games, every 7 games? That's when the age catches up to you. That's when the age becomes a problem. Because if you buy in to what the Suns are doing right now, what the Suns are trying to sell you of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Jimmy Butler, they can't afford Kevin Durant every 5, every 7 games to be dropping 30. Or for Jimmy Butler, every 3 games, every 5 games to be dropping 30. Those guys have to lead the way. Those guys have to be the anchors. And so when I talk about age dooming this team, and I talk about it getting harder and harder, it's because the consistency is going to go. And I'm already dealing with a player whose availability is up in the air. And do you think it's going to get easier for him to avoid injuries as he gets older? Do you think it's going to be easier for him to play as many regular season games? Even if he stays relatively healthy and he doesn't miss time, he's going to have to take more regular rest management games off throughout the course of the season. It's not a talent question. It's not an ability question. It's not a basketball IQ question. That stuff for Kevin Durant, he could play until he's 45. Truthfully, he can play until he's 45. LeBron James, perfect example. He's still doing incredible things this late in his career, right? But the problem is, can he do it every single night out there? Or is there a question of burnout? Or is there a question of, listen, we've got to get you time off because you can't do this. And so Durant says, I'm not going to get burnt out. I'm not worried about you getting burnt out. I'm worried about you just not having the consistency anymore. I'm worried about being 37, 38 years old, coming back to bite you. Aaron Rodgers came back from an Achilles injury for the Jets and had a great second half. There were some games he looked lost. There were some games he looked like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And then there were other games where you saw the old Aaron Rodgers. Why? Coming off of a major injury, and he's 40 years old. Father Time has gotten everybody. If you want to say that the one person that beat Father Time was Tom Brady because he went out at however old he was and threw for nearly 5,000 yards, or I think eclipsed 5,000 yards, okay, I'll give you that one. But Tom Brady, the outlier of all outliers. Father Time gets everybody. Father Time is going to get Kevin Durant. And guess what? Father Time is closer to getting Kevin Durant with each passing day. And with each passing day that the Suns don't win a championship is another day closer to Father Time potentially getting Kevin Durant. It's why this high-stakes game of all-in makes no sense to me. Do we expect Kevin Durant to be the same player next year that he was this year? Do we expect Kevin Durant 2 years from now to be the same player that he was next year? Now, maybe the Suns don't want to see this through all the way. But let's go in the Wayback Machine. Do you remember a segment that we did on this show when Matt Ishbia sat down with Shams Charania of ESPN and said, Kevin Durant's not going anywhere? This was when the Houston Rockets thing was popular, and he said, no, not going anywhere. We're signing him to an extension. He's going to be here for a long time. He's going to be a Phoenix Sun. He's got one more year on his deal after this one. So if you sign him to an extension, that means you're going beyond next year. You're going another year. So at least 2 more seasons, right? The end of this season and then another season, and then an extension would be at least another one, probably another 2. So you're looking at least 2.5 years. Where's Kevin Durant 2.5 years from today? Where is Durant 2 years from today? January 23rd, 2027, if Kevin Durant is still on the Phoenix Suns, is he still the same Kevin Durant that we're watching play right now? Or is he still Kevin Durant, but only some of the time? Not all of the time. And guess what? As a second apron team, the Suns don't have the ability to build a roster to support an aging, inconsistent Kevin Durant. They have the roster right now that needs to be lifted up by Kevin Durant. There's a difference. Right now, Kevin Durant can lift up the Phoenix Suns. Will he be able to do that for the remainder of this window that the Suns are trying to compete in? Or will the Suns need to lift up Kevin Durant? And if you trade for Jimmy Butler and you give him the extension and you give Kevin Durant an extension, I don't know where that support is coming from. Remember, you don't have your own draft pick for the next 7 seasons. You don't control your own draft fate for the next 7 drafts. So you better have the best scouting department and player development department in the NBA to get guys in the latter half of the draft, the back third of the draft, and to be able to turn those players into very important players for your team. Right now, Kevin Durant lifts up the Phoenix Suns. In 2 years, will he be lifting them up, or will they need, that being the rest of the team, need to lift him up because it's just inconsistent? Again, there is no questioning the ability and the pure, raw talent. That's not going to fall off the face of the earth. It's just the consistency. One night it's going to be awesome, and then the other night it's going to be 37, 38-year-old legs that are just tired. And then the next night it could look fine. That's what happens when you get older. That's what happens as you age. Things that you normally could do, you could do one day, and then if you try to do them the next day, you can't do them. And then 2 weeks from now, you're fine. That's what happens. And so I point this out, and I talk about the age in reference to where this team is going to go moving forward, because I just don't see how the roster and how the team is going to be in a better place next year or in a better place 2 years from now than they were last year or this year. And if this year they're 22 and 21, 1 game above 500, what does it look like in 2 years? What does it look like this time next year? What does it look like? Because Kevin Durant this year is averaging 27 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. That's what he's averaging. Now let's look at last year. Last year, 27.1. The year before that, 26. His last 2 years in Brooklyn before that, 29 points. So he's been relatively consistent. But at some point, it might fall off. And not in he all of a sudden doesn't know how to play basketball anymore or can't drop 30. It's just the consistency that I worry about.